And welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is, oh, this is odd. It seems that it didn't update. Today's topic is fear and the catalyzing power of fear. So maybe I didn't update the title. Anyway, what we discover about fear is that it is a powerful incitement to action. And once that action occurs, once that action is catalyzed, then it's really important to allow ourselves to move out of the fear, to transform that, to use the action, the momentum of the action to move out of fear and into, I don't know if hopefulness is the right word, but there is some degree of empowerment that occurs as a result of action. And excuse me. So we typically will recoil from fear. And in fact, it can be a really, really powerful tool as long as we don't get caught in the downward spiral of it that is paralyzing and disempowering. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Should be a fun conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So good morning, Dido. So good to have you here with us this morning. Before we get started talking about fear, let's just take a minute to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome. It's great to be here with you. Welcome, Robin. I'm so glad you're joining us this morning. So fear, so many of us live in fear and we try to resist that fear, and we kind of live at the effect of it. And fear can be a really powerful catalyst for change, for action. And on the other side of the coin, fear can be a super powerful tool of domination and control. The question is, how can we walk that tightrope where we allow fear to motivate us and then we allow it to drop away? I've worked with a bunch of people that believe that fear is their motivator. But the thing is, it's so easy to fall into the trap of perpetuating the fear or allowing the fear to perpetuate in the belief that it's positive. After a point, it isn't. Initially, the way our system works is when we're fearful, we have a surge of adrenaline. Certain systems sort of go on hold, like digestion and other things that aren't urgent in the midst of a crisis where we need to run, where we need to protect ourselves. And that's great in its way because we're running. The idea is to run out of the field of fear and danger. And the idea is that once we're out of danger, we then get to bring the other systems back online. But what happens is that so many of us get caught in the fear. And so we maintain this posture of fight or flight, flight, freeze, feed, the frenzy, the whole thing. We end up caught in that loop, and it's ultimately debilitating. And so the frequency of fear energetically is very much lower than of the frequency of empowerment. I mean, that goes without saying, right? So when we're fearful, the fear can catalyze the action that brings us to empowerment. And that path of transformation is a really important thing to be aware of, because otherwise we can get caught in this downward spiral that keeps us locked in a cycle of fear. So I guess the upshot of this is that action can support us in moving out of fear. Otherwise, we can become paralyzed, fight, flight, freeze, right? We can become paralyzed. And then that feeds the helplessness, which feeds hopelessness. And you can see where the spiral just continues downward. And this conversation, I'm just going to see if I can find this. This conversation is coming up because I found this book. I hadn't forgotten about it really, but I found this book of channeled writing that I did I think it was starting in 2009. And this one entry was from 2018. And it talked about fear, and I think I'm just going to read it. And what was cool about this is, like, when I was hello, Lisa, welcome. So good to have you joining us. We're talking about fear and fear as a catalyst. So I was sharing it with a friend, and it made me think about fear, because we live in a time where there's so much to be frightened of, right? And we can't ignore that, but we need to find a way to be able to metabolize it. So let's just, I'm going to read it to you. So delicate times call for extraordinary insight into the dynamics that shape the predominant movement of forces influencing the perception of possibility, for healing the rift between life-giving, life-affirming tides and soul-searing winds of destruction. Hi, Sue. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. I'm sharing some writing from a long time ago, from 2018, and it was channeled writing. I mean, I came through no edits, right? It little by little by little. So what that first sentence is saying is that there's a dynamics of forces that are shaping the way we see and perceive experience, and this dynamic is it's important to recognize it, to be able to heal the rift between life-giving, life-affirming tides and soul-searing winds of destruction. So we often feel, you know, the polarity of darkness and light that exists, and this is talking about that dynamic. So the perception of possibility dictates the space within which the potential for transformation is realized. So recognizing possibility is essential to being able to have the transformation occur. So being open to possibility. The system is a feedback loop which draws momentum from fear, which is then apportioned to inspiration in part and action in expression in the physical plane. So this is what we were talking about, fear as a catalyst, like manifestation. Exactly. That's really what we're talking about. And so if we get stuck in fear, fear can catalyze us, like the contrast. But if we get stuck in there, so here, that's what's coming next. The caution is to apply the fear as a catalyst to inspire transformative action, and to let that action then generate a momentum of its own, no longer driven by fear. The fear is meant merely to spark the awakening. When the fear becomes a focus of awareness rather than a tool to ignite transformative change, the actions generated become contractive. When we act out of fear, it becomes contractive rather than expansive. And the possibility diminishes for the intended outcome when we're contracted and fearful. Fear is a powerful instigator of change and a beguiling temptress capable of spinning an intricate web of deception masquerading as truth. So with fear, we can be swept into believing things that are really just deception. Be vigilant in placing fear in its proper perspective as a vehicle of ignition, allowing its energy to fuel forward-facing expansion. An environment that propagates fear effectively mires conscious and open entities in concern for lower vibrational constructs that restrict the field. So this is coming from my presence to so many open-hearted, conscious, aware people who are terrified about what's going on in the world. And the thing is that as we allow ourselves to fall into that spiral, that downward spiral, we're lowering the frequency. We've been talking about the importance of awakening consciousness and elevating frequency. And what this means is to use fear, is that we need to learn to use fear as this powerful catalyst rather than succumbing to fear and being the victim of fear. So I remember on Sustainability Now movie night, we showed an interview, I think it was with I'm not remembering the specifics, but it was talking about hope. And hope is a tricky word because we can easily fall prey to something that is, I thought this was a great term for it, hopium, like opium of the masses, hopium, that is kind of pie in the sky, ungrounded, kind of denial of reality, versus hope that is inspired and grounded in action and in world-based kinds of responses. Lisa says, I'm living proof it can be done. I was stuck in fear, trapped. Then the manifesting began. I left my former life and forged anew. On March 31st, it'll be 2 years that I left that fear, and life is wonderful. Wow, Lisa, that is, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. And the fact, as you said, you were trapped, right? And when we have that sense of paralysis, and to be able to move out of that, to be taking an act, I guess this is a big part of it, taking an active position in our lives. So rather than passively being at the effect of circumstances, taking an active role to create change, to create transformation, to be manifesting what we want. Wow, Lisa said, I would have died stuck had I not left. I so relate to that experience of feeling at different times in my life that I was dying, that the life force was just flowing out of me because I felt very much at the effect of life rather than taking an active role in shaping it and creating my life. And Lisa says leadership in our lives. Exactly, that we really do get to choose. If we experience being the victim of life, then we are. If we experience being the creator of our lives, then we are. And while circumstances may occur that appear to be beyond our making, the one thing that we most certainly have the capability for is determining how we respond, how we integrate and metabolize our experiences, and really taking the reins. So that's what we're talking about. Like fear can catalyze the need to take the reins. It's like, oh my gosh, the horses are getting away, grab the reins and let's go into action. We have to respond. And then when we take the reins of our lives, in other words, when we become responsible for our lives, when we become accountable for our lives, then we have access to a different level of choice and a different level of responsiveness to the circumstances. And as a result, because we're standing in this place of greater empowerment, the circumstances of our lives then change. It's really quite remarkable. So Lisa said, you have to change the things we can. That's a powerful tool if you use it right. And so it's very easy to become complacent or resigned. You know, I've spoken to so many people about circumstances in the world, or, you know, something that is calling for attention, and they will say things like, I can't do anything about it. I'm only one person. And that, if there's something that is calling for action and calling you for action, and we choose to say, there's nothing I can do about it, I'm only one person, there are many one people who have created amazing transformation. And one person can make a huge difference. It's a matter of moving out of the fear, moving out of the disempowerment, allowing oneself to be catalyzed into action that resonates with our deeper heart and soul. So it's interesting to me how we categorize emotions into the positive emotions and the negative emotions, and we want to avoid the negative emotions and we want to facilitate the positive emotions. And the thing is that emotions really fundamentally are energy. And some of those emotions feel good and some of them don't. But they all have purpose. There's an intelligence to the emotions that arise. And what if we were to allow ourselves to perceive and interact with and metabolize the notion of these emotions as communications, just like our ideas or our thoughts. Although so much of this is subject to past programming, but one of the things in the core connection work that I do with folks that I say regularly is, if it's coming up to heal. And if we can interact with emotions as energies, then we can allow ourselves to be present to those energies without us assigning all the meaning, without assigning all the stories. You know, like I've been guilty of this for so much of my life. Guilty is not the right word, but I found myself in a dynamic when I would feel an emotion. It was like, why am I feeling this way? And that can be a useful question, because it can lead us to recognize, oh, I got triggered by this, that, or the other thing. And sometimes we just end up making up stories about why we're feeling a certain way, and then that can pull us down a rabbit hole too. What if we can recognize the emotions as they arise, feel them in our body, presence ourselves to that energetic experience within our bodies. And as we presence ourselves to the sensations of that, the physicalness of it, and be curious, no story, no judgment, just allowing to feel that feeling, what we'll notice typically is that it's going to start migrating. And what we might have called rage might turn into sorrow, might then turn into love. These transformations can occur that just release this blocked energy. And so Lily said, okay, so Lily, I will check to see if I can find a message. I'm presuming maybe you sent it through Messenger. Hopefully I'll check there. Anyway, fear is another one of those emotions. We can feel that also in our body and allow it to move without the story. The story is what perpetuates fear. And the communication might be there's action to be taken. There is something to respond to. There is, in the face of disempowerment, the action that we take can bring us back to our sense of self and strength and sovereignty. So I invite you not to, or I invite you to maybe expand the appreciation for fear as a catalyst and not something that is purely oppressive. And also to allow ourselves to recognize the call to action that fear might be provoking. So I think that's it for today. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And also on my Facebook page. And I invite you please to like and follow Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel as well as mine. The links are in the description. Lisa says, I have someone in my life who triggers that wounded little girl in me. I've gotten to the point that I shake it off, but it's still a memory that bothers me. And so, Lisa, that's an opportunity to be giving that wounded little girl lots and lots of love. And as she feels more loved, she will become less triggered. And that's it. So I so appreciate the opportunity to share these musings together and explore the meaning and machinations of life. So so grateful to you. So until next